Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada ki founder-acharya Prabhupada ki Namacharya Haridas Thakur ki Prem Sabaho Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhara Shri Vasudeva Gaur Bhaktivinoda ki Shri Shri Radha Krishna Gopinath Shyamakunda Radhakunda Giri Govardhan ki Vrindavan Dham ki Madhura Dham ki Navadvip Dham ki Mayapur Dham ki Jagannath Puri Dham ki Jagannath Swami ki Gangamai ki Jagamai ki Tulsi Devi ki Bhakti Devi ki Shama Veda Bhaktivinoda ki Gaur Prema.
Hare Gaur.
Glory is the assembled devotees.
Hare
Glory
Krishna.
is the assembled devotees.
Hare Krishna.
Glory is the assembled
Hare
devotees.
Krishna.
Glory is the Shri Shri Guru Shri Gaura. You have something written? No? We are reading from the Srimad Bhagavatam, Canto 6, Chapter 12, Text 13. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya.
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 Aho Shri Kirtir Aisharyam. Oh, so you're going to repeat?
Yes.
Are you all going to repeat or no?
Oh, yes.
Yes or no?
Yes.
Huh?
Yes.
Okay. Ayo Shri Kirtir Aishwaryam.
Ayo Shri Kirtiraishwaryam.
Aho Shri Kirtir Aishwaryam.
Ayo Shri Kirtiraishwaryam.
You're chanting wrong. You need to look at it. It's Aishwaryam. And don't say it. You can't repeat. It confuses everyone else. Aho Shri Kirtir Aishwaryam.
Ayo Shri Kirtiraishwaryam.
Ashisha Purushashaya.
Ashisha Purushashaya.
Ashisha Purushashaya.
Ashisha Purushashaya.
Bhavantyaiva hi tatkale. Bhavantyaiva eva hi tatkale. Yata nichor viparyaya. Yata nichor viparyaya. Ayo Shri Kirtir Aishwaryam.
Ayo Shri Kirtiraishwaryam.
Ashisha Purushashaya. Bhavantyaiva hi tatkale. Yata nichor viparyaya. If you want to read.
What text are we on?
6, 12, 13.
16. Thank you.
Vaishnavis.
Ayu Shri Kirtiraishwaryam. Ayu Shri Kirtiraishwaryam. Ashisha Purushashaya. Bhavantyaiva hi tatkale. Yatha nichor viparyaya. Ayu Shri Kirtiraishwaryam. Ashisha
founder-acharya,
Bhavantyeva hi tatkale
bhavantyeva itatkale,
Yatani chor viparyaya
yatani viparyaya.
Please repeat. Ayo,
Ayo,
longevity.
Longevity,
Shri,
Shri,
opulence.
opulence,
Kirti,
kirti,
fame.
fame,
Aishvaryam,
Aishvaryam,
power.
power,
Ashita,
ashisha,
and addictions.
benedictions,
Purushasya,
purushasya,
of the living entities.
of the living entities.
Ya,
Ya,
which.
which
Bhavanti,
Bhavanti,
arise.
arise,
Eva,
Eva,
indeed.
indeed,
He,
he,
certainly.
certainly,
Tat kale,
tatkale,
at that proper time.
at that proper time,
Yata,
Yata,
just as.
just as,
Anicho,
Anicho,
one not desiring.
one not desiring,
Viparyaya,
Viparyaya,
reverse conditions.
reverse conditions,
Translation: just as a person not inclined to die must nonetheless give up his longevity, opulence, fame, and everything else at the time of death. So at the appointed time of victory, one can gain all these when the Supreme Lord awards them by His mercy. Srila Prabhupada's purport. It is not good to be falsely puffed up, saying that by one's own efforts one has become opulent, learned, beautiful, and so on. All such good fortune is achieved through the mercy of the Lord. From another point of view, no one wants to die, and no one wants to be poor or ugly. Therefore, why does the living entity, against his will, receive such unwanted troubles? It is due to the mercy or chastisement of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Not one gains or loses everything material. No one is independent. Everyone is dependent on the mercy or chastisement of the Supreme Lord. There is a common saying in Bengal that the Lord has 10 hands. This means that He has control everywhere in the 8 directions, up and down, and up and down. If He wants to take everything away from us, with His 10 hands, we cannot protect anything with our 2 hands. Similarly, if He wants to bestow benedictions upon us with His 10 hands, we cannot actually receive them all with our 2 hands. In other words, the benedictions exceed our expectations. The conclusion is that even though we do not wish to be separate from our possessions, Sometimes the Lord forcibly takes them from us, and sometimes He showers such benedictions upon us that we are unable to receive them all. Therefore, either in a opulent or in a distress, we are not independent. Everything is dependent on the sweet will of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Vanchakalpatubhyascha kripasindhavayascha patitadam bhaktivedanta Vaishnavaya namo namaha. Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shivasati Gaura Bhaktivedanta. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. This Bengali saying that Prabhupada is quoting here, he at one point used it in regards to his own life. He said that I tried to save my business and my family, but Krishna took it all away. And he used this analogy that Krishna, he has 10 arms, north, south, east, west, northwest, southwest, southeast, north, south, south, anyway, up and down. He's everywhere. And he said, what could I save with my two hands? What could I save with my two hands when Krishna took everything away with his 10 hands? He made me a beggar. I was loitering in the streets in New York for 1 year, all alone. And without any friends, without any possessions. And then Krishna gave with his 10 arms, 10 hands, so much that I could not hold with my 2 hands. He was very surprised himself the extent of what Krishna gave him to use in his service. So this is how Krishna deals with his devotees. The difference between demigod worship and the worship of Krishna is that the demigods give you what you want. Sorry, this is not. Put it up there. The demigods give you what you want, but Krishna only gives you what you need. And if you need something needs to be taken away, he will take it away. He can even take away your good name for some time. Krishna is the king of all thieves. He doesn't just steal yogurt and the gopis' clothes. He steals much more than that. If he feels the need, then he will steal whatever needs to be stolen. And at any point in time, whatever he needs to give, then he will give it in an abundance. It is said that Krishna, this world is like Krishna's danda. The danda is a stick, I have one there. It's used for two purposes. One, to bless, and the other is to chastise. So with that stick I can do one or the other. I can either bless someone or chastise them. With my stick.
It's over there, of course.
So he said that, this world is like Krishna's danda. He can either bless or chastise. The interesting thing about blessing and chastising is that it's the same. In one sense it's the same, it's mercy. It's what we need. One time Prabhupada said that sometimes the spiritual master has to chastise the disciple, even if the disciple has done nothing wrong, just to show humility. But it's pure mercy. Where's this that phone? Just take it outside.
Somebody's outside.
So yeah, this world is like Krishna's danda. Sometimes we're favored and sometimes we're severely chastised. Whatever the case may be, it is for our benefit. In the 9th canto of Srimad Bhagavatam is the story of Lord Ramachandra. Sita got kidnapped by Ravana. Sugriva helped Lord Ramachandra to search out for Sita, and it was then understood that Ravana had stole Sita and he was on the other side of the Indian Ocean in Sri Lanka. So the Lord sat in meditation for 3 or 4 days, hoping to negotiate with the personification of the ocean so that there could be an easy crossing. So he was in deep meditation, waiting to negotiate. But the personification of the ocean did not appear. And the Lord became angry. With his red-hot eyes, he glanced at the ocean. And the cortex within the ocean became very perturbed, disturbed. And only at that time the personification of the ocean appeared and said, "My dear Lord, unless you chastise the conditioned soul, they will not surrender to you." And in that purport, Prabhupada mentions in World War II, there was a saying, there are no atheists in the foxholes. A foxhole is a trench that is dug where all the soldiers are in the trench with their artillery firing at the enemy across the field. But sometimes the enemy is firing so much and raining down on them so much grief that the soldiers at some point put their gun down, put their hands in the air, folded hands, and say, "My dear Lord, thy will be done. I had tried my best here, but now I see the situation before me. It is now up to you. You either save me or you kill me. But I can do nothing. So this was the saying. There are no atheists in the foxholes. It was a very common saying. So therefore we can conclude from that whether we receive the Lord's favor in the form of opulence, or we receive the Lord's chastisement, in one sense it's the same. It is for our benefit. It is for our good. There was one rich man who had a son who was very materialistic. And he used to drive his car very fast. One day he was in the mountains, driving fast, and he lost control. And his car went hurtling hundreds of feet down the valley and exploded at the bottom. The good news is that the son of the rich man managed to jump out, and he landed on some sand dunes. He was okay, except that he bumped his head severely. And because he severely bumped his head, he lost his memory. And he was just sitting there, quite bewildered. He forgot his name, he forgot his address, he forgot his whole identity. And he was very bewildered. Some tribesmen in the valley saw him. They could also see that he had lost his memory. They took him to their village. They gave him a new name, a new identity. He became the local carpenter of the village. So from the son of a rich man, suddenly he's now a simple carpenter in a tribal village. His father came looking for him. Where's my son? And he hasn't returned. After 4 or 5 days, he found him in this village. He came running, my son, my son, my son. And the son looked at the father and said, who are you? I've never seen you before. And then the father understood, oh, my son has lost his memory. He went back to the town to get some therapist who came back to give the son some shock therapy. After some shock therapy, the son regained his consciousness and his memory and recognized his father, and they embraced and went back home. This is a Christian story. Very famous, common Christian story. And we may think, well, what's that got to do with us? Well, it's got everything to do with us because we're the sons of the richest personality in existence, Lord Sri Krishna. We were having our eternal relationship with Krishna and everything was absolutely wonderful. Vaikuntha means a place with no anxiety. However, Krishna gives us this minute degree of independence which we can use at any time. We were the fools who decided to use that independence. We turned our backs on Krishna, and from that moment on, we made our descent to the material world. And it's a long way down. It's a long way down. When we landed, we hit our head, and now we're experiencing spiritual amnesia. Forgetfulness of Krishna, forgetfulness of our eternal relationship and friendship with Krishna. We have been given new names, new identities. You are now a doctor. you are now a politician, you are a scientist, blah, 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 blah. The good thing about this material world is that there are plenty of shock therapies to be had. And they're very severe. Sometimes, perhaps in the beginning when we start realizing that the world is full of shock therapy, in the beginning we may rationalize. And we may say, well, okay, that hurt, but that's life, sometimes up, sometimes down, nothing to worry about. We get another shock therapy, a little harder. It hurts even more than the last one. We again rationalize. Well, that's chance, could have happened to anyone, just happened to me, that's all. And we go on and on and on, rationalize it. And then one day we get such a kick from material nature that we say, that hurt. And I don't want to be hurt anymore. What have I done to deserve this suffering? And there is question number one, the perfect question. Who am I? Why am I suffering? Where do I belong? And this is why we're sitting here this morning, speaking and hearing the Srimad Bhagavatam, so that we can get a chance to wake up to the reality of our constitutional position as eternal souls. We're trying to engage our life now in devotional service. We're not interested in the perfection of material life. There's a lot of talk about the art of living. We're not interested in the art of living, we're interested in the art of dying. Because it's that last moment which is the most important in our whole life. What we're going to be thinking of at the time of death, that will take us to our next destination. For a Krishna conscious person, if we're thinking of Krishna, we'll go back to Krishna. For everyone else, whatever they're thinking, they will return back to live out that dream of life. But that's all it is, a dream. There was a king. He had a dream that he was a butterfly. And when he woke up in the morning, he remembered the dream so vividly. He remembered the colors of his wings as a butterfly. He remembered the different flowers that he was taking nectar from. So he called his ministers. My dear ministers, I have a doubt. I just dreamt I was a butterfly. I have a doubt about my actual identity. Am I a king that just dreamt I was a butterfly, or am I a butterfly now dreaming I'm a king? And that was his question. So what was he, a king or a butterfly? Who can say? What do you say?
Both are dreams.
Huh? Huh?
Both are dreams.
Both are dreams. He's neither a king or a butterfly. This is daydreams, night dreams. At night we dream, but daytime we dream as well. We have no connection with Krishna. It's just illusory. So this is what Krishna Consciousness is doing for us. Prabhupada made that, he gave up his very auspicious and wonderful association of Vrindavan to come to the West and give us these gifts of Krishna consciousness. And the wonderful thing about all the gifts that Prabhupada has given us is that it is relieving us of the actions and reactions of material life. Our fan is slowing down to a point where our life is 100% Krishna's mercy. We don't need an astrologer anymore. An astrologer will tell you your future, but a future according to your action and reaction in the previous life. Your astrology will have no meaning from here on because Krishna has taken charge of your life. Krishna says in the Bhagavad-gita, I preserve what you have and carry what you lack. I, Krishna, I'm doing that. So have no doubt that taking up these practices of Krishna consciousness, there's a world of difference between the life of non-devotees who are trying to squeeze some enjoyment from this world, but are being defeated at every step. Srila Prabhupada said, the miseries of material existence indirectly serve to remind us of our incompatibility with matter. How these miseries, though disturbing, impel intelligent people to go to the representative of God, the sacred scriptures, and the saintly teachers. The enlightenment they offer commence the cure for our spiritual amnesia and paves the way for our ultimate spiritual reinstatement as divine princes or princesses. This is the goal of Krishna consciousness. Our reward is that we go back home, back to Godhead. Krishna is waiting for us. He is the first person we meet. He will embrace us. He may even ask us where we've been, because he's been waiting so long. He'll whisper in our ear, where have you been? I've been waiting for you. Thank you for coming back. Now this is all yours. So we inherit the spiritual world. Krishna doesn't want to enjoy the spiritual world on his own. And we may think, well, Krishna already has so many parts and parcels in the spiritual world. Who he's enjoying with? What does he want me for? That could be a question you may ask. Why should I bother if this Krishna consciousness is so difficult? I'm fighting against Kali Yuga, I'm fighting against my mind, I'm fighting against impressions from the past. It's a fight, 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 fight. And I'm really getting exhausted with this fighting business. What does Krishna need me for anyway? He has so many parts and parcels where he can enjoy with. What does he need me for? So we may rationalize like that. But the answer to that question is, well, Krishna wants us all. He's not satisfied until we're all beside him. We have a unique relationship with Krishna. And that unique relationship is being missed by Krishna. He wants us to come back so we can fill that gap within his leelas. So he wants us to return more than we actually desire to go back home, back to Godhead. Especially in the beginning of spiritual life, it's explained that it's a very vulnerable time for a young devotee because the fight is so intense, and generally Maya has the advantage, and it's like we're fighting, walking uphill fighting. Maya's above us, fighting down on us. It's almost, practically almost impossible. And that's why many devotees leave Krishna consciousness. It's not because they want to go out and break the four regulated principles necessarily. Many leave because the goal is intense. When you go on a plane journey, you sit down and the captain says, well, sit down, enjoy, and fasten your seatbelt and enjoy your flight. So you fasten your seatbelt. That's like sadhana bhakti within the temple. But you don't enjoy the flight right away. You have to go down a runway. It's very bumpy. The plane's going faster and faster. You're looking out the window and you're thinking, when is this thing going to take off? It's not comfortable. Prabhupada said, you'll know that Krishna consciousness is working for you when you start achieving some height within Krishna consciousness. And that's when you know the plane's taking off, when you start seeing you're leaving the ground. Otherwise you're wondering, when is it going to take off? When is it going to... Is this Krishna consciousness working for me? I've been practicing for 12 years, but it doesn't seem to be working on me. But Prabhupada said it will take at least 12 years just to forget what you learned in the first 20 years. I said that to my son. He's 21 years old now. I said, you know, you're so lucky you've been brought up in Krishna consciousness. All you need to do now is find what is your occupation? When I was your age, I joined the Hare Krishna movement, but it took me 10 years to forget what I learned in the first 20 years. All these impressions of the past, and the mind's dragging us daily back to these impressions. What's your name?
Stephen.
This is your mind, Stephen. Stephen, how long have you been chanting Hare Krishna now?
5 months.
Stephen, happy, Stephen?
Yes.
Are you sure?
Oh, perfectly sure.
Stephen, do you remember what you used to do before you chanted Hare Krishna?
Yes.
Discotheque?
No.
But you were doing something before.
Yes.
Anyway, this is just an example. I'm not pinning you down, but this is an example of what the mind does every day for the first 12 years. Constantly nagging, trying to take us away from Krishna consciousness, trying to bring us back to our impure impressions and impure emotions, and telling us, well, we don't, your mind will say, you don't stand a chance. I know you, I know your nature. You don't stand a chance. I'll give you another 2 weeks, or I'll give you another 2 months. But our duty as sincere devotees is to somehow or other push on, no matter what the mind may say or do. We should push on with our principles and practices with full faith that if it worked for the acharyas, it will work for me. And I can safely say today that it worked for me. I've been practicing for 45 years. What do you think?
Looking good.
I look good? Because maybe I've wasted 45 years of my life. You tell me, did I waste my time? What do you see in me? What do you see? You must see something.
I see a happy man.
Okay, happy, that's what everyone wants. What else do you see?
Knowledge.
Knowledge. We need knowledge to steer our way through this 21st century.
Soul.
Soul, okay, well there you go. The perfection of all spiritual life to identify with the soul. Anything else?
Friends. Friends.
Friends. You want to be my friend? Yes, we make no distinctions. In the early days of Krishna consciousness, there was a lot of distinctions. The sannyasis used to preach to the brahmacharis. When you go on book distribution, don't distribute any books to women. Because if you distribute books to women, they may become devotees. And if they become devotees, you may have to marry one of them. This is distinction. There's no distinction anymore. We've understood that actually whether we have a male body or a female body, we have every right, every chance and opportunity to achieve the same perfection. A story of Malati, she was once distributing prasadam on Prabhupada's order. He told her, distribute prasad to my godbrothers, they have come. She was distributing prasadam and some of the sannyasis didn't like it. What is this woman serving us, all this sannyasis? And Prabhupada said, She's such a wonderful devotee, she will cut her throat for me. And because she's a wonderful devotee, I would cut my throat for her. One time Jamuna also approached Prabhupada. I think it was Jamuna or maybe one of the devotees, female disciples. We are in women's body. What chance do we have of going back home, back to Godhead? The Prabhus, they have male bodies. They can easily go back home. But we're women. What do we do, Prabhupada? And Prabhupada said, yes, it's true. If you identify yourself as a woman, it will be very difficult to go back home, back to Godhead. But you're not a woman anymore. You're a Vaishnavi. There's a world of difference between a woman and a Vaishnavi. A woman walks around like a woman. A Vaishnavi is a humble servant of the servant. So therefore Prabhupada said that there's no difference, that the Vaishnavis have as equal opportunity as the Vaishnavas to return back home and perfect their life. So we are all in the same boat, and we all need to work together, cooperatively, supportively, and in one sense there is no one higher than another. We're all interdependent on each other. I am dependent on you this morning to hear my talk, my class. If you were not here, how would you think I would feel? Of course, Prabhupada said, well, if no one comes to your class, you should preach to the wall. Because by preaching to the wall, at least you hear yourself. So this is what class giving is not that I am better than those who are hearing. I have to hear my class as well as you may want to hear my class. It is for my benefit as much as it is for yours. In this way, we're not independent. We're not different. We're all in the same boat. Prabhupada's the captain of the boat, and he's steering us across the ocean of material existence. So therefore, we should work cooperatively together and try to achieve this special favor that we've been given. To go back home, back to God. There's one song I'd like to finish off with. One of my godbrothers wrote this song. In the midst of the darkness, Krishna's love is the guiding light. If there's something wrong, he can set it right. His inconceivable beauty will surely capture everyone's heart. So let us get to know him, and with that we'll make a brand new start. So hold on, don't despair. How can we cry when we know Krishna is there? Ain't it the truth we haven't got to care? Because he's right by our side. He's our eternal guide. Krishna is the giver of pleasure, and to serve his lotus feet is the key. Only this will put an end to our self-inflicted misery. He is the friend of the fallen. He can destroy the evil doers at will. He protects his devotees as he did by lifting Govardhan Hill. And if you think the Lord has left you, just remember that he's always in your heart. So hold on, don't despair. How can we cry when we know Krishna is there? Ain't it the truth? We haven't got to care, because he's right by our side. He is our eternal guide. Krishna is the source of creation. Without his sanction, we just can't do a thing. It is of his glories that the sages constantly sing. Krishna is patiently waiting for us to finish playing our little games. And if we really want to please him, we'll be calling out his holy name. Hare Krishna. Any questions or comments you'd like to make?
Maharaj, you told that when we come back to Godhead, Krishna will embrace us and say that I've waited for you for so long. I have a question about when I have a desire to be special for Krishna, for Guru, for some other people whom I love, or does it come from my false ego or from this desire of a soul to be together with Krishna, and the soul, that every soul has a special relationship with Krishna? So where does it come from, this desire to be special for somebody, so somebody can pay attention to us?
Yeah, well, it's a very natural part of us to love and be loved. I mean, if you think about it, which is one of the reasons why we became a devotee, we saw that devotees were different. The devotees had time for people. Non-devotees seem to be miles away in their own little world. I was just taking a flight from Montreal to Boston yesterday, and there was this one guy on the other side of the plane next to me, and his girlfriend was sitting next to the window beside him. And from the moment he entered the plane to the time the plane landed, he was there with his gadget, playing some kind of game. And his girlfriend was completely bored. So I said to him, "What's that you got in your hand?" Pretending I didn't know. What is that thing you got in your hand? You got to blow up the plane or something? Something like that, I said. And he said, "No, it's such and such and such and such." I said, what does it do? "Well, it's fun." Fun? I said, "From the moment you've entered the plane till now, you haven't looked up to see what's around you. You're just glued to this so-called fun. I said, you're wasting your human life. Get a life. Your girlfriend's next to you." Something like that. He listened. I don't know, I just couldn't help it. I had to say something. Get a life, you know. This is a problem today. People are so in their own world. They don't even have a life anymore. Captivated by some technological gadget. So sad. So naturally, and from deep down, we want to be loved, love and be loved. And real society, friendship, and love can only be had in the spiritual world. And of course, we're trying for it within Krishna Consciousness. We're not there yet. We've got a long way to go. But it's better than what it was. I can guarantee that. So don't suppress any desires or emotions which is in connection with Krishna. So you just need to ask yourself each time, can I use this in Krishna's service? Yeah? That's okay. So can you use it in Krishna's service? Well, be happy. Because there is sometimes devotees thinking that we should not be happy. To be happy is Maya. But we never saw Prabhupada like that. Prabhupada even said, if a disciple is morose, if a spiritual master sees a disciple morose in Krishna consciousness, or in front of the spiritual master, it's the greatest disgrace to the spiritual master. Because he's given us so much to be happy, to be free. So, it may be that it's unusual for you to suddenly be happy, and this is actually an interesting point that by coming to Krishna consciousness, suddenly this surge of positive emotions come up from the depth of our hearts, and we're quite surprised. And we may think, oh, I'm happy. This is Maya. Only Krishna should be happy. No. It's like pride. Pride, because Prabhupada came to England, he would study wherever he went, he would study the people. And in England, we're very proud by nature. We have our own nose. And some people in England even speak down their nose. War. I say a war. Speaking down the nose. So Prabhupada would preach to us British boys and girls in a way that we would lower our nose. He gave one class, do you know what the British did in India? And he would go point for point for point. How the British exploited India, took all the resources, money, soldiers, and went and conquered the world. First they sent one colonel to stay in India for 2 years and come back and give a report. Well, what was his report? In India there are no thieves. Everyone lives in the country. There are more cows than people. And all positive things. They're rich, they're wealthy, they're happy. So then they sat around the temple discussing how they were going to go and exploit and destroy the Vedic culture. That was their mission. And they were successful. So, Oh yeah, and he entered his class. Have you seen the camels in India? And he imitated the camel walking. He said, next time you see a camel in India, see it as an incarnation of the British Raj. So anyway, material pride is just not good, but spiritual pride. We saw Prabhupada walking like this, with his cane, walking on morning walks, with his head high. And why? Because he was proud to be an ambassador of Krishna. So this is pride which is connected with Krishna. There's nothing wrong with that. And I remember some years ago I decided to do something like that in Vrindavan. I was walking down the street and people were coming out of their houses and, hey love, come here, come here. Oh, Hare Krishna, Hare Ram. They were so happy to see me walking down the street, proud to be a Vaishnava. I mean, if you want to preach to Indians, this is one way you can preach to them. If you start preaching the philosophy, they know the philosophy. They don't want to hear philosophy from you. They want to see a living Hare Krishna, especially a Western one, who's happy, who's changed his life for the better, and who's proud to be a Vaishnava of the Lord. That knocks them for six. And they will invite you into their house. Come into our house. Please take some water. Please take some fresh water. So everything can be used. If it's, Goswami said we have to accept things which are favorable for devotional service and reject those that are not. Okay? Anything else? Thank you so much.
Jai.